Alrighty folks, it's finally time to talk about these new augments and the augment system. I did a video a couple days ago about this version 1.6 patch notes. If you want to check that out, it covers everything in these patch notes other than these augments. But today we're here just to talk about the augments. These are a lot of patch notes, but the augments are the bulk of it. So let's get into it, talk about these augments, how they work, and do a meta discussion of each of them. We're going to go over the minor augments, the 2 pools to pick from, and all of the 3 augments per hero. So just, I guess, sit back, get your discussion points ready, timestamps below to each of these heroes if you want to go look at the specific hero that you want to check out. We're going to talk about what I think the best of the 3 augments is for each hero, but this is mainly a meta discussion video, so leave your comments below. Which of these augments do you think are overpowered or overtuned right off the rip here? We'll see in the first balance update following 1.6 how they tune things around, because I'm sure there's going to be some underpowered and overpowered ones. But let's get into it. Augments. It's no secret how these augments work now. We've had the test server, we've had people put out videos on the test server. Shout out to Ranchero, I think he goes by Ranch most of the time in his videos. He did a short one in the test server talking about all these augments, and that's where I first got to see it. Really good video if you just want to run through all of them, but those numbers that he was reading off of were test server numbers. These are now official in-game numbers that are going to be live as of June 10th in the morning when this patch goes live. So let's get into it. Augments are selectable in the draft once you've picked a hero that you want to play with. Once an augment is selected and confirmed, the effect will be active immediately from the start of the match until the very end. So very exciting. There are hero augments. Each hero has its own unique set of augments intended to further elevate the most popular playstyles for the selected hero. And then there's minor augments. You can choose one of each group. There's 2 pools, pool 1 and pool 2. These are the same for all heroes. So first off, let's go into minor augments here. There's 2 pools of these. You're going to pick one from each pool every game on all of your heroes. These are pretty strong effects relatively, I would say. And there's a good variety in both pools, and getting to pick one from each is going to be pretty strong on most heroes. A lot of these are akin to slightly weaker versions of passives that some items get, and some of them are their own things. So first off, we've got heal for 4% of damage dealt to heroes. That's quite strong, basically 4% Omnivamp, just passively, but it is only on heroes, so I mean, still really strong. Any hero that already heals a lot, this is going to make their healing stronger. If you don't already heal a lot, this is going to give you some extra sustain, so that's quite nice. Your ultimate deals 6% more damage. This is really good on heroes that ultimates, their entire point is to deal damage. I'm thinking Shinbi, Morigesh, Grim, Murdock, those type of heroes where their ultimate is just there for damage. You might as well take this if you don't like any of these other options, because 6% more... of course, there's a lot of ults that deal damage, but also you're using them for something else, like a Fey ult, you're using it for the CC, but it also does deal damage. You're probably not excited about 6% damage on somebody like that. Then we've got heals and shields are 5% stronger. Really solid. This is as much as you get from a lot of items. I'm thinking about on Narbash, Muriel, those type of heroes where healing and shielding is their main thing. Why would you not take this? It's probably better than any of your alternative options here. Regenerator, when damaged by heroes, restore 3 plus 2% missing health over 5 seconds. This is really strong for tanks, for trading in solo lane, any role where you're consistently taking damage. It also means you're going to be consistently healing damage or healing health, and it is based off of missing health, so not bad. I mean, kind of hit or miss. Probably not. If you're poking consistently, then the 4% of damage dealt is going to be more healing, I would think, most of the time. But if you're consistently getting low health or playing around being low health, then the missing health scaling here is going to be pretty strong. And then finally, from Pool 1, basic attacks reduce your ability cooldowns by 0.15 seconds on hit. I like that this is a flat 0.15 seconds and not a percent based. This keeps everything pretty balanced. Basic attacks, I mean, this is similar to like Ashbringer, the item, and will be definitely beneficial on a kind of select few heroes, especially picking it over these other ones. It's only going to be very few heroes that are interested in that one, but a solid set of pool 1. You're going to pick one of these in every game as a minor augment, and you're also going to pick one from pool 2 here. Farmer deals 7% more damage to minions and monsters. Very solid here. If you're planning on being someone who's farming a lot, if you're a hero that has weak clear in duo lane or solo lane or mid, you could take this to bolster your clear. If you're a hero that already has fast clear and you want to focus on shoving your lane harder earlier, this could help you. It could also help you in jungle. Minions and monsters will include jungle objectives as well if you're looking to solo one of those early into the game. And then we've got dealing ability damage to heroes, restores % max mana over 4 seconds. This is quite strong. It's max mana, not missing mana or anything like that. 2%, and it's not like, yeah, it's just 2% of your max mana just on proc for dealing the damage, so pretty solid there, really solid sustain. If you're poking consistently, this doesn't have a cooldown on it. It restores it over 4 seconds, but doesn't have a cooldown on it, so this, if you're poking consistently, this is going to be a lot of mana sustain. Roamer, while out of combat, gain 5% movement speed. This is basically a free miniature Moon Boots passive, or at least the non-jump portion of Moon Boots passive, right off of rip. That is pretty strong. 5% doesn't sound like a lot, but if you stack this up with other movement speed items, like in addition to Moon Boots, this can be quite helpful for getting around the map quick. Steadfast, when immobilized, gain 12% tenacity and 5% damage reduction for 2 seconds. This is really, this is solid. This is akin to building some of the on immobilized procs like Unbroken Will and what is the other one? Absolution. This is akin to those, and if you're building these in addition to those, or you're thinking of building these on Rampage in addition to his passive, 5% damage reduction is quite strong. It's only for 2 seconds, but that's pretty decent if you're comboing it with some other big tanky items. And then Executioner deals 6% more damage to heroes below 40% max health. Again, a very solid passive akin to Wraith Leggings, where you get extra damage on heroes that are low. This could be a great combo with Ultimate deals 6% more damage if you've got both of those on a hero like Morigesh, who you're using your ult usually to execute, or Murdock, or whatever it may be. That is 6% both ways, so pretty solid there. I think looking at these minor augments, there's going to be something for everyone here. You can definitely mix and match. I'm kind of glad they did it as pick one from each pool and not all one list and then pick 2 from the list. Kind of gives you more to think about and more to play around. Which ones do I want to take from this pool and this pool, rather than just taking, like, you know, heal for 4% more and heals and shields are 5% stronger. That could be interesting on some heroes, but gives us something to think about here. I mean, it's hard to say any of these are stronger or weaker than the other ones because they are very situational and very dependent on your playstyle and what role you're playing. So I think there's something for everyone here in these 2 pools, and I like these. They do seem a little strong, but every hero gets them, so it's going to be kind of balanced. The strength is going to increase across the board, so I like those. We'll see which ones end up being the most used. Hopefully we can find some sort of usage statistics on these, or just keep an eye open in games and see which ones are coming out on top. But that's going to do it for the minor augments. Let's get into all the hero-specific augments, and there are quite a few. We're going to go through these in alphabetical order, timestamps below to each hero individually, like I said. And we're going to talk about which one I think is the strongest on each hero as we go. So, Argus, Arcane Engine, this is one of the ones they showed off in the dev stream. Dealing ability damage to heroes grants 2% movement speed for 1.5 seconds, stacking infinitely. Pretty solid considering he's going to be spamming his machine gun ability and stacking up that movement speed. That could help you quite a lot. It kind of mitigates the need to build something like Dreambinder to stick to people, because you do move slower when you're using that, but usually if you build Dreambinder they can't get away, so a decent one there for sure. Mana Catalyst, restore mana equal to 10% of damage dealt to heroes, reduced to 2% for non-heroes, and then mana restored from basic attacks is doubled. I think this is really good. I think this may be the best of these 3 on Argus. Argus generally struggles with mana sustain and this completely, especially if you counter this with one of these minor ones, like dealing ability damage restores 2% max mana over 4 seconds, you could basically just not even need to build mana sustain items, potentially. You know what I mean? You could build a big mana pool and pretty much be fine here with maybe just Caustica as your only mana sustain item. So I really like this one. That's probably his strongest one on Argus. And then we've got his ultimate booster, Synaptic Shock, which is his ultimate, which Synaptic Obliterate has 50% more range and slows for 50% longer. That's just kind of cool because it already has massive range, so this is going to be like a really snipery type of ability at this point. 50% longer range on something that's already that big is like absurd. And it does go through walls and stuff, so you're talking about a similar to Murdock type snipe with 3 shots instead of 1, of course. Slows for 50% longer. This is just okay. You maybe could build around it and take the ult boosting minor Aug with it and get some good usage out of it, but I think the other two are really going to be better. Mana Catalyst looking like what I would assume is the strongest here, because Mana Sustain is a problem on Argus, and this would fully mitigate that essentially. Aurora, Ice Age, Glacial Charge travels 25% further. The Ice Wall already travels pretty far, so I don't see this being super strong. But it could be strong in niche scenarios. I think the other two augments are probably better overall. We've got Frozen Fury, which is on her Froststorm passive. It grants Aurora 10, 18, 26, 34 attack speed, while it is active, increased with the level breaks. This is pretty strong free attack speed when her passive is going. She already has passive bonus magical damage on her autos, so this in combination with something like Typhoon and Prophecy could be a very viable auto attack Aurora build coming out of jungle or just boxing really hard in solo lane. I'm thinking like literally first item Prophecy plus this in solo lane. By the time you hit level 6 and you're getting that 18% attack speed on top of Prophecy and Typhoon, this could be massive trade advantage on Aurora. And then Deep Freeze ultimate, her ultimate's area of effect is 20% larger. This is just okay. 20% larger is decent. There have been a lot of situations where I barely miss Aurora's ult or someone barely evades out of the way before Aurora's ult finishes casting, but just 20% larger, no more damage, no more cooldown. I think it probably gets outshined by these other ones. These are not some of the most game-breaking augments, I don't think, on Aurora, but something for everyone, I would say. If you really like the Glacial Charge distance, you could get that mobility. I think Frozen Fury looks to be the most game-changing one, because free attack speed with the items that you can combo into this and the fact that her autos already deal magical, this is pretty solid. Boris up next here. He's got Bolster Barricade, which probably is the strongest one here. While Boris' Tesseract core is active, he gains 15% increased armors. This is not flat percent damage reduction, but it is increased armors. Pretty solid here. Boris really does not need any more mitigation to be a solid tank if you build him tanky, because he's got that healing as well. So a decent one here. Probably my favorite of these three. Savage Shred Detection Protocol's mark shreds 35% of the target's physical armor for 4.5 seconds when consumed. So when you mark someone, once you hit them and it slows them and it consumes that mark, it shreds 35% of their physical armor. This is pretty solid, very high damage potential coming out of ganks from the jungle with this, but you got to keep in mind that Detection Protocol is on a pretty long cooldown, so you're not getting this off multiple times in team fights. This is going to be a ganking augment only, pretty much. Decent for sure. 35% of armors is a lot for 4.5 seconds, but keep in mind that it's on a long cooldown, so it's not like a team fight helper. And then Apex Hunter Chrono Swipes deal 60% more damage to heroes that are below 25% max health. Solid. Again, you could combo this with the Minor Aug for bonus damage when they're below 40% health. I mean, this is okay. I see this being decent. It's a good executioner type ability, but this doesn't make Chrono Swipes as good as like Zarus' Spear execute bonus damage. So it is the only damage added type effect here. I mean, this shreds armor, so it's effectively damage added, and it is permanent. Like Chrono Swipes, you'll be getting up multiple times in a fight, so it definitely will help, but I think the percent increased armors is probably a better value. Helps you sustain better with his healing. It opens up Tank Boris a lot more for sure. Tank Boris solo lane could potentially be more viable with this as well, because you should have your Tesseract core going pretty frequently or pretty constantly once the fight has been going for a couple seconds. Countess, Shadow Strikes, basic attacks against enemy heroes reduce Shadow Slip's cooldown by 8%. Again, I'm not a big fan of percent. 8% is not as nice as like the minor augment that we got for a flat 0.15, or even if they would have made this 0.2 or 0.3 or something seconds. 8% just isn't that great. It is nice. Getting Shadow Slip up more frequently will help Countess be more mobile, but I don't think this one's going to be the most attractive of these 3 augments. We've got Sanguine Slash, Blade Siphon deals 15% more damage to isolated targets. This is decent if you're playing mid lane Countess, or if you're diving on 1v1s, because most of the time you will be hitting an isolated target with this slash, or with Blade Siphon. 15% damage is decent as well. So not a bad one, just makes her better at what she's already doing. But I think the most impactful one, the most game-changing one, is probably Bloodwell here, which is a passive on Takedown summons a pool of blood with 18 charges at the enemy's location for 120 seconds. While standing in the pool, Countess consumes a charge to restore 2% max health and 2.5% max mana every quarter of a second. And this comes with 18 charges, so I mean, this is pretty solid. It means that after you get a takedown, if you can stand where that takedown was for, 4.5 seconds, you're going to heal essentially over a third of your max health, and this is max health. This is not missing health or anything like that, so this is max health, so you're basically going to get a third of your max health back on takedowns if you're able to take 5 seconds to stand on where this pool of blood summons, and then even more mana than that, so it's a really nice top off for her following takedowns. I see this being the strongest of these 3 augments for sure, but let me know what you think. I think these other ones are just kind of okay. Crunch, he's got some decent ones, of course. Combo Crunch, dealing damage with Cross Crunch, grants 5% attack speed for 3 seconds, stacking up to 6 times. This is really nice. This is like a free Typhoon passive, basically. Except it is just flat 5% attack speed, doesn't scale with anything. Still really strong. Attack speed, you gotta remember, on Crunch does increase the animation speed of his abilities as well as his auto attack rate. So very nice to have 1 or 2 attack speed items. This could mitigate having to have more than 1 attack speed item, or if you're building Typhoon, this could make it to where you don't build any attack speed items and you are able to tailor your build more to how you're going to counter your solo laner or enemy jungler. So I really like this one, probably my favorite of these 3, because the other ones are just kind of okay. Lunge Crunch, forward crunch travels 20% further. Decent for mobility if you're doing double, if you're recasting it with your ult, you can definitely dash super far and catch people out with this. But you got to keep in mind it does stop on enemy heroes unless it's empowered, so you can't just get out of all your fights for free with this. But still decent, 20% longer range is good. And then Falcon Crunch, empowered right crunch launches Crunch 4 times higher when used mid-air. His uppercut does launch him into the air if you're already in air. However, its cooldown is 50% longer when used this way. This is decent. This is a very decent tech option for if you're playing against those Howitzers, you're playing against those Skylars who are going to be in the air. This at least gives you some way to reach them consistently. And if you do hit them with this, it's going to knock them out of it. Think about a Gideon who's ulting. If you do reach him with this, it's going to knock him out of his ult. If you hit a Skylar or a Howie, it's going to knock him out of the air. So decent here, a good option at least for countering in-air troops, but I think Combo Crunch with free attack speed is going to be his go-to augment here for sure. Let's take a look at Dekker. Momentum Boost, one of the ones I talked about in my previous video of unignorable, fundamentally strong augments. Rocket Boots, her passive, also grants herself and nearby allies 30% decaying movement speed over 3 seconds. We finally get solid numbers attached to this. 30% decaying movement speed over 3 seconds is pretty decent, and you gotta keep in mind this comes with no mana cost because it is her passive. Yourself and allies can get either of you out of a bad situation or help you chase for kills. Really strong passive. I think this is going to be pretty, like, this one has to be the go-to, and this is really underrated right here. A free, no mana cost move speed boost. Really nice, really strong augment right there. Photon efficiency, photon disruptor's cooldown is decreased by 15% when it damages a hero. This is just okay. 15% a conditional 15% cooldown reduction on one of her abilities. It's just okay. That's definitely not even close to how strong momentum boost is. And then Ionic Surge is actually pretty decent too. Ion Strike, this is her ultimate. Stun radius is increased by 30%, so that's pretty big gains on where the actual stun hits. This doesn't increase the overall slow range, just the stun radius. But upon stunning an enemy unit, it shreds their armors by 20% for 3 seconds. This is both magical and physical armors, so that is pretty strong. A really solid tank shutdown ability, thinking about like a Narbash or a Riktor who you want to stun them out of what they're doing. You can definitely use this, and it's going to shred their armors in the process, making for a potential easy kill and shutdown. But I think consistency-wise, momentum boost with that move speed is just too good to ignore. Next up, we've got Drongo. Smog Therapy. This is a weird one. While standing in Gag Grenade, Drongo and his allies restore 50 up to 590 health over its lifetime, increasing by hero level. It adds a heal to his Gag Grenade, which is really weird. I don't know if this could actually open up some sort of support Drongo plays, because now this is an ability that has a silence and a heal associated with it, which does make it a very strong overall ability, but I don't know if this is enough healing to be considered decent in support. You're trading mana for this healing, and you're downing your silence, so you're not going to have it up. But a weird one, not one I would expect as a Drongo augment. Bring the Boom. Rad Rounds deals 30% of its damage to nearby enemies upon exploding. This is not great at all. 30% of the Rad Round explosion damage when it goes off at the end. It's just okay. It's not like this is going to get you 2 kills for 1 or anything crazy. You're not going to be using Rad Rounds to help you clear wave. This would give you good wave clear, but you're probably not going to be using it for that. So I don't know, not a great augment. I don't foresee that being if it was like just straight up deals 100% of its damage to nearby enemies, then it would be better, but 30% is like too low to really be valuable, I think. And then Shred Spree, probably the best augment we have here on Drongo. Shrapnel Cannon, his ult's cooldown is reduced by 85%, but it deals 60% less damage. That is a fine trade-off for me. 85% shorter cooldown for 60% less damage. Is really, you're going to be able to spam this. You're using this more for its tech options than the actual damage itself. The repositioning in fights, the knockback, the armor shred is what his ult is best at, not just the damage aspect. So I think this is a great trade-off. Definitely looking forward to spamming the Drongo ult with this one. That's going to be exciting. Feng Mao is up next here. He's got some decent ones too, for sure. Killing an enemy hero restores 2 enemy unit. That's key here. Restores 2% of missing health, increased to 35% for Earth Shatter executions. 2% on killing an enemy unit. I'm assuming this is going to work on jungle minion or jungle monsters and lane minions. 2% of missing health. This is solid sustain. The lower you get, the more you heal off of it. And then, of course, when you hit an Earth Shatter execute, you heal for 35% of your missing. Pretty decent, especially if you chain Earth Shatter a couple times. It could be a solid amount of healing. Better than that one, though, I would say, is just mitigating the damage up front, which is this one right here, Imperial Duelist. Feng Mao's basic attacks debuff targets for 3 seconds. Against debuff targets, Feng Mao deals 5% more damage and takes 5% less damage. I mean, 5% more damage dealt and 5% less taken is a 10%-ish swing in most of your duels. 1v1 target deletion is what Feng Mao is quite good at, coming out of both the jungle and fighting in solo lane. So very solid here. If you can keep this procced on your enemy solo laner at almost all times, then, I mean, that's just a big swing. It's a big percent advantage swing for Feng Mao. And then Seismic Smash, a kind of tech one. Earth Shatter also knocks up enemies and stuns them for a short duration. This is cool. It makes Earth Shatter something you could consider using even when they're not in execute range. You can use it to knock someone up, shut them down, interrupt them out of an ability, and then go for the follow-up kill rather than only using it to execute. But I think there is something for everyone here. If you want to play big health sustain Feng Mao, you can play it. If you want to play dueling 1v1 Feng Mao, you've got it here. And if you want to play interrupt Feng Mao, you've got it here. So hard to say one of these is the best. My favorite is probably this one because it is percent scaling. And it's on both sides. More damage taken, less damage, or more damage dealt, less damage taken, which is just quite a strong swing, and it's consistent because it is tied to his basic attacks. So, up next we've got Gadget. Sticky Mine's explosion radius increased by 25%. Gotta keep in mind this is not how big the radius is where it sticks to them and adds the hat to them. This is just the explosive radius increased by 25%. Still decent, still good for lane clear, still good for poke, forces them to, if you don't stick them, be careful where they're walking and stuff like that. Auto-lock amp, seek and destroy's homing speed increased by 25%. This is quite strong. This is going to make it so that the projector will just absolutely stick to people. If you've got like Dreambinder to slow them down off the projector damage, they're basically not getting out of it. It's going to follow them, it's going to stick to them and deal that damage. So I like this. This is fun. This is a fun part of Gadget's kit, so I definitely like this. Ion Barrier. Security Gate grants yourself and ally heroes a 50 plus 35% magical power, decent scaling there. Shield for 3 seconds when they first pass through it. This is nice, definitely bolsters the potency of Support Gadget, where you now not just speed up allies with the gate, but also shield them. Adds a lot of tech to the gate. Now you're talking about an ability that speeds up and shields allies and roots enemies. That's quite a strong ability and can be fired into the air. So I like this. I like this helping out Support Gadget. I think the strongest of these potentially in mid is going to be Auto Lock Amp, but you're always going to be able to get good value out of shielding yourself, even if it's just yourself. Shielding yourself with a percent scaling like that off magical power is quite solid for survivability and getting out of bad spots in mid lane too. So hard to say Ion Barrier is not going to be the best augment here, but because these are just kind of percent bonuses, so it is what it is. Next up, Gideon. We've got Cosmic Rift deals an additional 5% of target's max health. This is not current health, this is max health. Damage to an enemy in the center, so if you hit them with the middle of Cosmic Rift, you get basically a free Noxia proc, so I think comboing this with Noxia could be quite strong. If you do catch them with the root, you're going to be able to hit this for free, which is quite decent, but I mean, this may be the strongest of these three augments, to be fair. Great tank killing potential, especially, like I said, combo with Noxia. Abyssal Mantle. Upon activating Black Hole, you gain a 50 plus 100% magical power shield for 4 seconds. This is quite decent, mitigates some of the vulnerability that you deal with in Gideon's ult. If you combo this with True Silver Bracelet, then you're going to have an even bigger shield and be CC immune during that time, so that's quite decent. I definitely am a fan of this. I want to see this built on a big health Gideon, Orb of Growth, Dreambinder, Magnify type Gideon with True Silver Bracelet, and just see that crazy damage mitigation from his shield that you're going to get. This is going to be a big shield if you've got this and True Silver in his ult. And then we've got Infinite Impact. Void Breach has infinite range. This is cool. I don't think this isn't a damage added ability. This is just an easier poke ability, easier maybe snipe finish. Got to keep in mind, Magic does not have a executing item like Vanquisher to really like finish people off super easy with this, but still no lazy backing around Gideon. Solid range, solid objective pressure from outside of objectives. Solid poke. Going to be able to outpoke a lot of mid laners if he's willing to spam this on them. So I like this. I think the strongest of these most likely is going to be 5% target max health. If you are able to catch them in the center, we'll see how hard and how consistent you're able to catch people in the center with it, because I think it's a really small hitbox in the middle. But a free Noxia proc, if you build Noxia on top of this, that's huge damage. That's 10% of the target's max health. if you catch him with that. So Greystone didn't really get super strong augments here, which makes sense because he has been a very overpowered hero for the last 2 patches. Make Way deals 15% increased damage to the nearest enemy unit. Pretty decent. A lot of times you're using this in a 1v1, and that's guaranteed that the enemy hero is going to be that hero taking this 15% increased damage. So don't mind that. It helps you with clear and jungle as well, I suppose. So not bad. 15% is okay. Imperial Soul, Stoneforged Soul deals 12. This is his ult, deals 12% more damage, and its radius is 20% larger. That is pretty crazy because basically that big of a radius means if they're on you in melee range when you activate it, how much it slows them, they're probably not getting out of it before they take that hit, and it's going to be a bigger hit than even before. So that's going to be fun to build around. Building the minor augment for bonus ult damage could be fun with this too if you want to just spam your ult on people. And then Tainted Oath, most likely one of the best of these 3 in actuality in practice, which is Sacred Oath. His auto attack stem applies a 50% blight for 4.5 seconds. That's not bad at all. Blight is the anti-heal item, and 50% anti-heal is stronger than most of the anti-heal items that we've got, so this could really make it to where you can counter that healer, that 1v1 healer in solo lane like a Crunch, like a Grux, with just his passive in-kit anti-heal, rather than having to rush an anti-heal item first item like you normally would. You could wait and pick up an anti-heal item later into the game if you want, or just not pick one up at all if you're looking at proccing Sacred Oath on them consistently. So a couple decent augments for Greystone. I think the anti-heal one probably shines the most, or helps him the most in solo at least. Close Cut gives you faster clear in jungle, and then Imperial Soul, probably the coolest and most fun one to use, but maybe not the most meta. Grim, he's got some solid ones here. He's got System Restore, blocking an ability with the Energy Shield restores 30 plus 18% of missing health. That is a huge chunk of missing health for how short of a cooldown this ability is on, and grants 25% decaying movement speed for 2 seconds, so it lets you reposition, either continue to chase or continue to flee. Very solid if you're good at using that ability shield on Grim. That is a lot of health. That is a lot of health restores for sure. Robot.exe on his passive, retriggering or triggering Pulse Fire reduces your current basic attack cooldown or basic ability cooldowns by 15%. This is just okay. Pulse Fire, you've got to keep in mind, is on a 5-second cooldown per target, so if you're doing something like Clearing Wave, where you're hitting one minion in the wave and then hitting it again to trigger Pulse Fire, then hitting the next minion in the wave, then hitting it again to trigger Pulse Fire, then you could get a lot of extra cooldown, ability cooldown resetting from this. But if you're in a single target 1v1, this is gonna proc 15% of your cooldowns every 5 seconds, which is really not impactful at all. So not a good 1v1, but a good wave clear and team fighting ability resetting, augment potentially. And then the fun one, which I talked about in my other video, Instant Reload. Killing an enemy hero with GTFO allows it to be recast at no cost for 8 seconds. So you're basically talking about a Feng Mao style ult resetting ability here. And that is just crazy because Feng Mao's ult, you have to hit them and be in close range with. This is a long range lock-on ult. So, somebody gets low exiting a team fight, lock them, boom, fire them, get the kill, boom, you get to fire again at somebody else. Really solid here, going to be really fun to use, especially in combination with some of those minor augments for just massive ult damage. And then Overseer, throw Overseer on top of this, you're hitting hard. You're hitting hard with that ult. So love to see it. Next up we've got Grux. He's got some solid ones here too. Warlord's Challenge, his ult, Warlord's Might is the name of this augment, but Warlord's Challenge duration is increased by 0.3 seconds on hit, reduced to 0.15 for non-heroes. 0.3 seconds on hit is a lot because you can attack, and with the attack speed boost that you're going to get from this ult, you can attack up to 3 times a second, which if you're landing all of those, means you can almost extend this Warlord's Challenge duration indefinitely. In reality, you should expect to get double or triple the duration of Warlord's Challenge the majority of the time, if you're consistently able to keep attacking. And even against, it's even 0.15 against non-heroes, so for securing objectives, like for going for mini prime early, you could hit this and keep the duration going, because you're going to be able to keep autoing if you've just got a couple attack speed items built. So really like this for making Warlord's Challenge better and longer lasting. Lust for Blood, this is a passive. This basically returns him to the overpowered healer that he used to be before the 1.4 changes. Heal for 4% plus a 0.5% per level. That's crazy. That means this is going to get up to, even by the mid game, this is going to be up to 10-15% of damage dealt to enemies inflicted with maximum bloodlust stacks. So yeah, just a free 10-15% Omnivamp by the mid to late game for getting maximum bloodlust stacks on someone is crazy. Back to winning all of his trades for free with his overpowered passive, as he always has been, because he's Grux. So we'll see how, if this gets tuned down. I can't imagine they leave it this strong, because even anti-heal can't deal with that amount of healing. And then we've got Chieftain's Blink. Affects his Blink. Grux's Blink cooldown is 30% shorter. This is nice. Grux can struggle from lack of mobility, lack of chase down potential, or escape potential. 30% shorter cooldown on his Blink could definitely make up for that and could be much appreciated. I don't know if it gets really used over how flashy and exciting these two are, because you really shouldn't be relying on your Blink that much. But 30% shorter cooldown, you could rely on it more. So we'll see on Grux. I think Lust for Blood is just like way too strong to turn down. But Warlord's Might is decent, and Chieftain's Blink seems decent too. Next up, taking a look at Howitzer here. We've got Blast Off, which is pretty cool. Landmine Blast targets 30% further. This knockback mine already, if you're good at placement and you can place it to where it knocks you away and knocks them back when you're trying to maneuver away from someone, it's pretty much a free escape. It's a huge gap that's created. Extending that gap by 30% further in both directions sounds pretty crazy on this. Could also help out the rare support Howitzer play with a very strong knockback. Combat thrusters for sure going to be the most popular augment here on Howitzer. Gain 40, 80, or 200% movement speed during Make It Rain, his ult. 200% movement speed while he's ulting? I mean, that's nobody can, because it's gain. So this is effectively triple your movement speed. Nobody can escape that. He can also escape for free anytime he wants with that. That is absurd movement speed. Gives you the ability to dodge incoming enemy hero abilities that could try to interrupt your ult. 200% movement speed is an absurd number. This is probably going to get nerfed, right? How does it go 40, 80, and then 200? Why not at least like 160? At least is more reasonable. 200 is absurd. And then finally, Sniper Shells. Affecting his basic attack. Howie's basic attacks grant 3.5% total attack speed for 4.5 seconds, stacking up to 6 times. This could potentially make Auto Attack Howie more viable. Auto Attack Howie is already fun. And as I've said with some of the other heroes like Aurora that we've seen that has attack speed bonuses, comboing this with Typhoon, with Prophecy, sounds really strong. We'll see how strong it actually ends up being, but that sounds quite decent to combo this with Typhoon and Prophecy. 3.5 times 6. Solid attack speed gains here, and he does have that blast radius around his autos, which is pretty cool. Iggy Scorch, Turret Maniac, a crazy one. Increase your maximum number of flame turrets from 3 to 4. I don't know if that's going to be a balancing issue. 4 turrets on Iggy sounds crazy. The amount of damage you can output with 4 turrets, it's going to make contesting of teamfight objectives really easy for Iggy. It's going to make defending lanes really easy for Iggy if he wants to stand in a tower. It's going to be so hard to push into that tower and take it. So we'll see. I can't imagine that is not overpowered. Looking forward to giving it a try and abusing it, but seems like it's too oppressive right there. Badlands Belch, affecting his ultimate, but only the Belch portion, the ending portion of it. Belch deals an additional 8% of target's missing health. This is missing health, not max health. So you want to use it for a potential execute. And knocks back targets 30% further. That part is probably more impactful. You're already using this most of the time for the knockback and not for the damage, but 8% target missing health, if they are low and you hit them with the Belch, you could finish them, especially with something like Wraith Leggings on him. But we'll see if this is really more valuable than just having a 4th turret. I think having a 4th turret is kind of just too crazy. And then a solid one for scaling here on Iggy. Molotov permanently gains +3 explosion damage against heroes each time its explosion hits one. So if you do take this at level 1 and then you focus on spam poking your enemy mid with this, you could easily stack up, 40, 50, 60 extra damage on it by the late game. That's pretty decent if you're on a cooldown build maybe and you can spam it like that. It's not bad scaling. I think that 3% seems like it's not a lot, but it may be a decent amount late game. So we'll see. I think having 4 flame turrets on Iggy is going to be the go-to augment. That's just a lot of extra damage output and extra objective and teamfight contesting abilities. Kallari's got some cool ones. Takedowns reduce current basic attack or basic ability cooldowns by 50%. This is quite nice. Reset your abilities when you get a takedown. That's a kill or an assist, so foresee that being fun. Nice resetting, nice multi-kill ability there for sure. Deadly Finesse, damaging enemies with Crippling Dagger, reduces its cooldown by 1.5 seconds and refunds 20 mana. Again, the ability to reset and get new or repeated abilities off faster. Crippling Dagger being his most, or her, I should say, Kallari, his most impactful ability, your highest damage, most spammable ability. And getting some mana refund and a 1.5 seconds cooldown off of it means you're going to be able to spam the absolute hound out of that dagger. Quite nice there. We'll see if that one really gets picked too much. These are both very similar. I think they're both quite decent. Multi-kill potential versus just dagger spam potential. The dagger spam is going to be more consistent. And then Critical Override, probably the most game-changing and most fun one. Kallari's abilities can critically strike, but her critical damage is decreased by 35%. This is seems decent. 35% probably is what they just had to do to balance this out, because Kallari's daggers get great scaling, and them critting, it sounds really strong. Building 100% crit on Kallari with Imperator, probably, and like nuke rounds as well, could make this just absurd. I mean, Kallari's ult critting, Kallari's daggers critting. This seems crazy. We'll see how much damage that actually looks like with 35% reduction, but it's going to be a lot. It's going to hit ridiculously hard, so probably the one most people will take if crit Kallari builds become meta. If not, I could definitely see this dagger cooldown reduction and mana refund being a very popular one. Khaimera. Oh man, Khaimera. How strong is Khaimera? Too strong. Effects on the Feral Ambush, not too crazy of one. Ambush's range increased by 15%. Like I said, this is just okay. If you're leveling this second, which you should be leveling this over his cleanse, it's going to be spammable, so you're going to be able to chase people down with it by repeatedly sending it out rather than just needing more range. And especially if you're building something like Berserkers, Basilisk, or even Gaia Greaves, this isn't going to be that impact. You're going to be able to stick to people no matter what. Jungle Invasions, what will certainly be the strongest Khaimera augment. Khaimera gains 5+1 per level bonus physical power while in the jungle, and then increased to 10+2, so it basically doubled while in the enemy jungle. This is absurd. Definitely incentivizes jungle invades, incentivizes you to challenge for their red potentially at level 1, and even when you're not challenging for jungle invades, just gives you extra power in the jungle, which means faster clear, which means faster objective takes. Khaimera is already the best at doing this, so getting an augment to make him better at this is quite impactful. This seems really strong. Decently scaled to 2 per level in the enemy jungle is pretty good scaling. And then the biggest game changer here, doing something Khaimera can't normally do, which is minion regeneration. Spirit regeneration also grants health regen against minions. Solo lane Khaimera is now a thing. Support Khaimera even may now be viable. Getting consistent sustain in lane with his passive, which is a very strong healing ability, is going to look crazy. We're going to be trying that out for sure on Khaimera, but Jungle Invasion, definitely the strongest generic Khaimera increase. Just faster clear, better jungle invading potential. Quite nice. Even by the time you're level like 3 or 4, this is already a fair chunk of extra power in the enemy jungle. So, looking forward to Khaimera, looking forward to testing him out in solo and support as well, though. Kira, Bringer of Mercy. This is affecting her Mercy, which is her single shot ability. Mercy costs 10 less mana and reduces Kira's current ability cooldowns by 1 second upon dealing damage. Pretty solid there. Mercy is really what you're relying on for the majority of her damage, and it can crit, so getting extra ability cooldowns off of this and it costing less is quite nice. Dusk's Embrace. Dusk deals an additional 8% of target's missing health, not max damage, to enemies afflicted with maximum vengeance stacks. This is pretty crazy because a lot of times if you are in a fight and they do slither out of the fight, you're going to have max vengeance stacks on them, and 8% of their missing health can be quite a lot. This is a situation where if you have this and you're building Vank, you really only have to get targets to 11-12% health, and then you can hit this, and with the Vank proc it will kill them. So very decent here. I think combining this with Vank looks really nasty, looks really spooky. You're not going to be able to escape Akira unless you're going to be able to get out super early. And then Siphoning Purge. On her ultimate, Purge heals for 15% of damage dealt to heroes. This is nice. Her ult has long needed some sort of better tech like this. It's okay if you're using it in the situations with Purge where you're hitting 2 or 3 enemy heroes, then this could potentially heal you fast enough to mitigate the damage that's going to be getting thrown on you while you're ulting. But her ult needed some form of tech like this. I don't think you're probably taking it over either of these other two options though most of the time. Dusk's Embrace plus Vank seems like too strong of an ability to really pass up, in my opinion, but Bringer of Mercy is pretty decent too. Kwang, been pretty strong recently, got some decent augments to make him stronger. On his passive, Strike of the Heavens, this is every time after he casts an ability he gets this passive, deal 20% more damage and reduces cooldowns by 30% more, so free ability resetting here, quite strong, quite fast ability resetting too, if you're spamming abilities and getting this Strike of the Heavens off consistently, and he gets bonus attack speed for it, so very strong ability and cooldown bonuses for Kwang. Aura of the Heavens, a wild one. Kwang emits an aura, granting himself 3% Omnivamp. That's not how an aura works, but it should just say he gains 3% Omnivamp and grants an aura to nearby allies that gain 5% Omnivamp. But that is crazy. Support Kwang users rejoice because now you get to just stand near your carry and give him 5% Omnivamp. That's pretty wild, and especially in late game team fights when you're grouped up tight, if he's giving multiple members of your team 5% Omnivamp, that is a lot of extra sustain, so a very solid, unique augment that we're seeing there. I like that one. And then Heavenly Tactician, Fury of the Heavens cooldown is reduced, that's his ult, by 20 seconds flat, which is quite nice. Additionally, Kwang no longer retrieves his Heavenly Blade upon recalling. This was always a feature in the OG Paragon Kwang, and it should have always been a feature on this Kwang's ult, but I get it, he's already strong without it. And coming with 20 seconds of cooldown reduction on top is a nice perk for taking this augment. I think most people will be drawn to this augment for its tactical advantage that it can give you, getting back to lane fast, getting to objectives quick. But a 3% Omnivamp and then 5% to allies Omnivamp is quite hard to ignore. I mean, all of these augs are really strong for Kwang, I feel like, so expect Kwang to step into a stronger spot than he already is, and he's already in a fine one. Belica, Void Bombs, I feel like there's supposed to be another letter right here. I feel like the proofread team could definitely fit an extra letter in this word, but maybe I'm wrong. Void bombs deal 15% more damage to isolated targets. This is decent for sure. A lot of times in mid lane you are poking a single target with this, or even if you're playing her in support, you're probably not hitting a huge group of targets with this. You're probably hitting one of the duo lane with this, so free extra 15% damage is not bad. Combat Veteran, highlighted this in our other video. Passively gain, it came out to 0.1 to 2 based on hero level experience per second. This is still a decent bonus experience gain augment. Nice in support where XP is more of at a premium because you're splitting it with your carry, but also nice in mid, especially if you want to combo it with Orb of Growth. You could easily outlevel your opponent mid laner quite quickly, and that just makes Belica stronger because she does get a bonus effectiveness on her abilities when they reach max rank. So a solid ability or solid augment, particularly for Belica, I think. And then Pulse Fire rounds, basic attack. Lieutenant Belica's basic attacks also deal 10% magical power as magical damage on hit. I'm assuming this is per shot, not per burst, which would effectively make this per burst 30% extra magical power scaling. That's not bad. As I've said before, on these augments on these heroes that do affect your basic attacks, comboing this with Prophecy and Typhoon, and maybe even Tainted Rounds in her case, is going to give you significant extra damage on your autos. It could be a very strong, viable Belica build. Auto attack Belica has been fun in the past. They nerfed it a couple patches ago because it was too strong, clearly. I made a spreadsheet on how overpowered it was. But I think this could be nice. This definitely makes Prophecy a lot more valuable. But I think overall the best one most likely will be this XP one, if these XP numbers per second pan out to actually giving you your level ups quicker, which I would assume they would, because that's a fair amount, because it's per second. Morigesh. Morigesh basic attacks shred 4% magical armor for 4 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. That is incredible armor shred. 4% magic, I mean, it's 4 seconds too, so you've got plenty of time to get those 5 stacks on for 20% armor shred. Before you ult, you're ulting someone with 20% less magical armor, so quite nice there. It is on basic attacks, so could potentially build Prophecy with this to aid in getting those stacks up faster. Ritual of Death, takedowns decrease Curse's cooldown by 20 seconds, so if you are able to hit the ult and get a kill, your next one's going to come up 20 seconds faster. Nothing to dislike there, especially if you're building haste. This is going to be pretty nice. Spamming Morigesh ult just sounds spooky for sure. And then Cursed Infestation. Hive deals 10% more damage and has 10% increased range. The range is much appreciated because it is her longest range ability, but it still has less range than a lot of other mids are going to have. So 10% extra damage and 10% extra range on it is quite fun. I think that this armor shred one is going to be the most damage added that you can get out of Morigesh out of any of these. But Cursed Infestation is going to make that hive a lot more usable. And it may just be worth it more to have that and then just have like Caustic of a percent pin. But we'll see. A couple good options here. I don't think the 20-second cooldown on her ult is really that exciting, but maybe it is. Maybe you could build Overseer and focus on your minor augments on her ult as well and just spam it and get better value than you can on these other two. But I would lean towards Cursed Infestation myself. I don't think Morigesh is a good hero anyway, so I would probably try this out first and see how it makes her feel. Mourn to get some nice ones here, some game changers. Nightmare Extractor, casting ability reduces the cooldown of Extract by 20%. You're going to be spamming abilities once you have the mana to do it, and having Extract up sooner just means more healing. They did nerf the cooldown on this and the healing associated with this in this patch as well, but having it come off 20% cooler, 20% faster if you are hitting abilities is quite nice. And then Contagion Eclipse, another really nice one that I would have liked to see on him just normally, which is Eclipse applies Contagion to all heroes on activation. This basically means that from across the map you can apply Contagion on the entire enemy team, which means you can apply things like Dreambinder Slow, you can apply Megacosm Tick, you can apply Anti-Heal on all enemy heroes at once. Very helpful here. This was probably the one that I would take just for that tech purposes. If it were not for Dreadful Roots, what a crazy one. If Abduct, his whip, his vine pull, hits terrain, Mourn pulls himself towards it. So you're looking at basically turning his pull into a combination Riktor pull and Yin whip, where you can pull yourself around or pull enemies to you. Seems pretty crazy. They didn't even tie extra cooldown to this if it is used in that way. So I really like this. This gives Mourn a stronger movement ability. He can pull himself to people and then mez them, rather than trying to pull people to him and then mez. And it'll be more consistent because he can just target the terrain and doesn't have to worry about missing. We'll see how this feels in game. But add some verticality to Mourn. I think that's my favorite one here, but also the ult spreading Contagion is quite nice. Murdock. Sting Operation. Murdock gains 2 additional max static trap charges. Pretty cool because you could spam these mines out now. Having 2 more of them, you could spam them out at key choke points like coming in and out of the jungle and pretty much shut them down completely, so quite decent there. Justice's Reach on his passive, which is titled Shots Fired. Made a mistake in my Augments, top 5 Augments video, thinking that this meant that all of his shots that he fires, but turns out that's not what it means. Shots Fired is the name of his passive. So when his passive does proc every 5th auto, it now pierces through enemy units and has 300% range, or 300 range. It already has plus 400 range, so I think this takes it up to plus 700. That is incredible poke, incredible clear with the pierce. But no actual damage added, so versus just having his normal passive. So we'll see. This probably will feel very nice in lane for the free poke and the pierce helping you clear. But Martial Law is going to be pretty attractive. Long Arm of the Law, his ult deals 12% more damage and grants 50 gold on hero kill. 12% more damage is quite nice, especially if you build it with Vank and the minor augment for more damage, which on your ult, which you probably will be building on Murdock, right? So I think that's probably the strongest of these 3, but Justice's Reach will give you more of an advantage in the 2v2 in duo lane early, and Sting Operation could have some nice tech options around objective fights. So an overall good set of augments for Murdock. Muriel. Alacrity reduces the current ability cooldowns of the target it shields by 1.5 seconds. So this is the speed up that you can throw on an ally, or yourself for that matter, and it reduces the ability cooldowns of the target by 1.5 seconds. Nice for giving your carry their cooldowns back up faster, or throwing it on yourself when you're escaping and then getting your other cooldowns up faster. Aerial Assistant. On her ult, Reversal of Fortune cleanses the ally it's used on and grants them 1.75 seconds of CC immunity. Makes her ult better at saving an ally. Full cleanses them is nice. That can apply to just a CC scenario, a slow or something, or it could cleanse them of some sort of tick damage or marks, as cleanses do. So decent addition to her ult, I guess. Probably not as exciting as some of these other ones. And then Essence Nullifier. Serenity's damage also drains 10+% of the target's current mana, dealing it as true damage. This is really strong for poking early in your 2v2s and duo lane, because not only will you hit them, slow them, and deal that damage, you'll also drain a % of their current mana, so if they're full on mana, it's going to hurt more, and it deals it as true damage, so even tanks are going to be able to feel the pain of this one. So I think that's probably the strongest of these Muriel augments, But the other two are not bad either, being more true support relative. This one is more damage based. This one also still applies in solo lane. This is not teammate based. So solo lane Muriel maybe something you could try out with this. Narbash. Narbash has got some crazy ones. Is one of the best, if not the best, ally healer in the game. So let's look at what he's got here. March, which is his move speed boost, also grants Narbash and his allies a % attack speed based on the level of it. Not bad. Definitely not bad. Akin to the attack speed boost that you're going to get from somebody like Muriel on your carry, could be very helpful in winning those 2v2s and chasing down kills. Rhythmic recharge. Yeah, rhythmic recharge. Narbash restores mana when taking damage equal to 10% of the damage received. This is a free version of Hexbound Bracelet, which you're usually building on Narbash first or second. So building it in conjunction with taking this should mean you really don't have mana issues, I would think, because you're trading mana constantly to heal, and then when you're taking damage, you're getting that mana back. So a decent one, maybe not as attractive as bonus attack speed or this third one that we'll talk about, but a decent one for sure. And then percussive tear, or tear, I guess is what it should be. Each hit of Crash Bang Boom shreds 2.5% of the target's armors for 3 seconds for a maximum of 25%. Again, this is both armors similar to Dekker's ult augment that she's getting. This is up to 25% of both armors. For 3 seconds, that's decent. It's just more damage added, and this can proc, and it most likely will proc, on multiple enemies in a team fight. That's what makes this more kind of attractive than Dekker's, where you're probably just targeting one person with it. This will most likely be targeting the majority of their team in a big team fight, and shredding all their armors is quite nice. I think out of these three, they are pretty balanced, but bonus attack speed from March, probably the most consistent benefit in the 2v2s in duo lane, and then in late game team fights, percussive tear is just going to be really strong if you're able to proc it on multiple enemies. Phase, been a little weak recently. Maybe these augments will bring her back into a better spot. Psychic support relative to her passive. Essence Catalyst also restores your linked target's mana by 10% of target's missing mana over the duration. So her passive, when she's linked to somebody and she casts an ability, it heals them. Now will also restore mana. Quite decent, especially if you're building this in combination with something like Void Conduit, to where you can restore mana based off their missing mana. This also restores based off of missing mana. Hey, keep your carry topped up in mana, no problem there. We like to see that. Final Flash. Energy Lance is 30% shorter, but deals significantly more damage. This is disgusting. This is such a tear. Why would you ever take this? Don't take this. Don't play Phase was my first recommendation, but if you do like playing Phase, you know that the Energy Lance's range and the root is what's valuable about it, not the damage. So I don't have to tell you guys who are Phase players not to take this. This is not a good augment at all. Who cares if it deals 65% more damage? The range is what I care about. So weird. I don't know why that this was a thing. This is not going to make mid lane Phase viable or anything crazy. Kindred's Surge, basically the one of two options that you should be considering. Hyperflux grants 10% more movement speed. Keep in mind her ult already does grant movement speed. And 1.5% max health regen for its duration. That's pretty decent, right? If you're building this, it already does give movement speed and attack speed. If you're building this in conjunction with something like, what is that item called? The move speed boosting item, Windcaller. If you're building this with Windcaller and taking this augment, it's going to give whoever you're linked to absurd movement speed during this ult, and could be a real game changer. The max health regen is probably decent. This would be better if you're linking it to your tank jungler or tank solo laner or something, but you're probably not doing that most of the time. You're probably trying to link your carry, right? So Kindred Surge, a decent one. I see it probably being the most impactful of these three. keeping in mind that Final Flash is just so terrible. It's probably the most impactful. It just makes the ult better, you know, so why not take it over the Mana Restore? The Mana Restore is okay, but the ult being better is probably what you want right on phase. Rampage, one of the ones they showed off in the original reveal. Got some interesting ones like the Tiny Titan that we'll talk about last here, but the Rumbling, Rumble, his ground pound ability, no longer has a cooldown. It costs 10% more mana, slows Rampage by 60% while active, and deals reduced damage. Plus, yeah, so this is the new damage number. But it's no cooldown. You can just keep holding Rumble. You can just Rumble forever. It makes you move slower when you use it, which there has to be a trade-off here. And it costs 10% more mana, so it is going to get pretty costly to just hold it down and keep firing it. Probably not the best of these three options that you've got, to be honest with you. Rock and all, but it will look cool in game to see Rampage just ground pounding forever like Donkey Kong on the old Clash games. Rock and all, this is based around the Boulder Throw. Boulder Throw can now be ripped out while mid-air, so if you're jumping or whatever, falling, you can still pull out a boulder. It also deals 0 to 80% more damage based on distance at a 6,000 unit cap, so that's crazy. You're not going to be throwing this thing 6,000 units. That's across the entire map. Not for 80% more damage. That's okay. Really would have liked to see this be more like 10% to 120% more damage type of effect, so that if you're taking this augment, you're taking it to deal more damage with the rock always, not just, you know, sometimes it deals more damage if it's a really far throw. Tiny Titan, this is the one that we showed off where he shrinks Behemoth. His ult now shrinks Rampage instead, with it now also removing his combat penalty while using basic attacks and granting him 70% total attack. This is, I'm assuming you're supposed to say speed here, proofreaders. 70% total attack for the duration. It doesn't say power, it says attack, so the word speed is supposed to be here, I'm assuming. However, he receives 35% more damage while Behemoth is active. Size enlargement effects such as Giant's Ring also make Rampage even smaller. So, a cool one. It is a trade-off. It is not a straight-up let's make Rampage better augment. It is a trade-off. Do I want to be small and attack more and deal more damage while I'm ulting, or do I want to be big and soak the damage for my team like a typical Rampage would? I don't know, it seems okay. It'll definitely look super cool in game, seeing a little tiny Rampage running around just smashing people up and throwing rocks that I'm assuming are going to be bigger than him. I don't know if the rock's going to scale down as well, but a cool one, but a trade-off one you got to keep in mind. So hard to say. These Rampage ones overall aren't too exciting other than the Tiny Titan one, and you're giving up being the tank Rampage to do it, so we'll see. We'll see if these other ones end up being as strong or as weak as they really appear. I mean, Infinite Rumble is cool, but Revenant, Quick Draw. Revenant has needed some augments like these to really step into a better position. He's kind of been one of the weaker ranged carries for a while here. Quick Draw, Revenant's reloads 30% faster, decent, more consistent auto attacks coming out. Spectral Bounty, the clear-cut best one of these three. Revenant temporarily steals 6% of his target's physical and magical power while in the Nether Realm. I call it the Shadow Realm. If Revenant kills the target while they are in the Nether Realm, he gains 50% of the stolen stats permanently. So yeah, this is now an ultimate that isolates people, steals their power to help you in the 1v1 with them, and if you get the kill, you get 50% of it permanently. I'm gonna scale him up crazy strong into the mid to late game if you're able to get a couple good executes off in his ult. I don't see how you pass up on this one. 30% attack speed or 30% faster reloads is not worth giving up. Permanent stacking, scaling, and a better, stronger 12% swing advantage in his ult because you're stealing 6% of it and you're gaining it yourself. Hellfire Blast, the other option. Hellfire's round's 4th shot deals 8% more damage and ignores 40% of the target's bonus physical armor. This is decent if you need to be a tank killer, if you need, as your Revenant, to have extra armor ignore, if they've got 3 tanks or something crazy like that. This could be something you take over Spectral Bounty, because Spectral Bounty is going to benefit you more if they have high power heroes, because you're going to be able to steal more. But, yeah, I mean, Spectral Bounty, clearly the best one here. Hellfire Blast, niche scenarios, quick fire or quick draw, just kind of makes them a little bit more usable. Probably not too many people, I would think, would be taking quick draw over these two. Riktor with some crazy ones. Riplash, his pull has 10% more range, and successful hits also reduce its cooldown by 30%. That means you're going to be able to send this thing out way far, and you're going to be able to spam the pull. One pull is all it takes on Riktor most of the time, so getting some cooler, longer range pulls off sounds really fun. Current Overload, Electrocute grants 8% more movement speed. This is good. I think this was 10% in the test server, and that's just too much. More movement speed and deals 30% more damage to monsters. This doesn't include minions, right? This is just jungle monsters. So this could be decent in jungle for helping him get around faster and clear faster, but not making him overpowered, most likely in something like solo lane or support. And then Wanton Warden. Riktor regenerates health equal to 5 up to 8% of damage received. Over 5 seconds, increases at hero level breakpoints. A free extra like Titan's Crest style ability. You could combo this with the minor augment for extra healing on damage received, and probably get you some pretty good sustain. I don't think it's too much more attractive though than these, because it's based off damage received. So you can't, like, it's not based off of missing health or max health, so you can't build tank to get more healing out of this. But a decent sustain. You know, it's basically 8% damage mitigation if you're able to heal. If you're able to get a break and heal. It's basically 8% damage mitigation, which is quite a lot. So decent options for Riktor, I think. This current overload definitely helps him in jungle, and then Brutal Chains definitely helps you and rewards you for being good with the Riktor pull, so I like those. Serath, upon picking up Fallen Graced Visage, this is her passive, which triggers her ult essentially. Serath restores 150% total physical power as health. Nice, even makes her even better at multi-kills. If she gets the kill, triggers her ult, she gets a big heal off of picking it up and triggering her ult, which is quite nice. Wrath Unleashed, a very odd one and a unique one for sure. Serath gains 20% critical strike chance while Heresy, her ult, is active. That's cool. I like that. That's one of the first times we're ever seeing something about heroes receiving static crit strike chance just from part of their kit. Granted, it's only during her ult, but that's when you want it the most. You could build 80% crit Serath now, or even like 75% if you're going to build a Noxian Quiver. You could build 3 items and 75% crit and then get near 100. So, pretty interesting there. And then Wanton Warden. This looks like somebody just never even considered proofreading this, because one proofread through and you surely would have caught that you did not name this properly in here. But Wanton Warden, which is clearly not the ability name of this or this augment name. On Serath, whatever it is, Ascend now stuns enemies for 0.4 seconds when it deals damage. Again, pretty strong. Having her fly have a stun attached to it as well. It's a short stun, but you can use it to interrupt. I mean, that's decent. I mean, that's for sure decent. I think there's something here probably for everyone. If you want to build multi-kill sustain Serath, you've got that augment option. If you want to build full 100% crit rapid attack speed type Serath and use her ult in every engagement, you've got that option. And if you want to have a stun attached to her fly, you've got that option. So Serath definitely going to have some variety, I think, coming up here. My favorite would probably be picking up a stun on the fly, I think would probably be my most, it's the biggest game changer, I think, out of these, because you're probably life-stealing so much that the heal isn't too much of importance, and then whether you're building crit or not, you're doing hella damage when you're ulting, so it doesn't really matter. So I'll take the stun out of those three. Sevarog, get some decent ones here. Phantom Rush, Unholy Pursuit here. Phantom Rush grants 2 souls when it damages an enemy hero. Additionally, its cooldown also resets when Colossal Blow damages an enemy hero. So you can dash in and hit your ult. I'm thinking late game scenarios, you can dash in, hit your ult. You're going to get your dash right back. And you get 2 souls free stacks when you damage someone with it. Not bad. Not bad. I think decent. Like, I mean, the rush really can help Sevarog if you're not building super hyper tank, the Phantom Rush dash, so we'll see if that's the one that gets used the most in reality. Grim Harvest, Siphon now executes enemies that fall below 5% max health. Decent, helps you stack up your souls easier with Siphon on lane minions or jungle monsters. Has that ability to also execute enemy heroes if they go below 5% max health, but it's just on Siphon, which is fine because it's on a really short cooldown anyway, so a cool one. I like Grim Harvest for sure. And then Gravebreaker, Colossal Blow knocks back, is 25% stronger each time Sevarog reaches a new soul tier. The knockback strength is increased by another 25%. This is going to be comically funny to see max soul stack Sevarog's hitting people across the map with his ultimate, because you've got 4 stacks, so that's it's 25% stronger base, so I'm assuming this means that it's going to be up to 125% stronger knockback. You're going to be able to knock people the entire reach of a minion tower, of a lane tower or something like that, through, like, from the front all the way to the back of the tower with something like this. So an interesting one. We're going to see how that looks in game, because that's going to be comically funny and cool looking, but don't know if it's really the best one here. It may well be, because I don't know if 5% max health executes are really that valuable. So Gravebreaker may be the go-to here on Sevarog, but a good spread of options on him. Shinbi, she needed some sort of augments for sure, because she's kind of one-dimensional for the most part right now. So we've got Showstopper. Rushing Beat now applies 2 stacks of track to heroes upon damaging them. This is nice if you're trying to stack up and use your ult on them. Getting 2 stacks for doing the dash, because you can dash twice, so this could apply 4 stacks out of the 8 max on a hero, is pretty decent. Pretty decent. We'll definitely take that. Bites per minute is funny. Passive ability hits reduce biting melodies cooldown by 1 second more. This is nice for auto attack Shinbi, hitting like your circular wolves and constantly resetting your bonus ability or bonus auto attack magical damage. Like I've said before, in conjunction with Typhoon and Prophecy, could lead to very viable auto attack Shinbi builds. And then finally, Nature's Talent. Shinbi permanently gains 0.5 ability haste upon killing a camp leader. Quite nice for jungle Shinbi, giving you scaling into the free ability haste side, which we haven't seen anywhere else. For just farming camps as the jungle Shinbi, this could mean, I mean, you're clearing camps pretty fast most of the time, so this should add up to a fair amount of bonus ability haste by the end of the game if you are playing jungle Shinbi. So something kind of for everyone. A decent jungle augment, for sure the best one if you are playing jungle. And then if you're not playing jungle, depending on if you want to build into any auto attack or if you just want to play around her ult and have an easier time stacking her ult. Not incredibly strong augments, I would say, but some unique ones for sure associated with her unique passive and her unique ultimate. So, and a decent one for jungle. Skylar up next here. The clear-cut #1 carry right now. Doesn't deserve to have any crazy strong augments, because it's going to just make her even more broken. But let's see what she's got here and talk about them. Plasma Barrage. Plasma Grenade reduces its own cooldown by 3.5 seconds when it attaches to an enemy hero. 3.5 seconds is a lot. I could definitely foresee this getting a nerf. 3.5 seconds shorter cooldown when you stick someone with her grenade that is like kind of really strong, I feel like, as far as abilities that reset or reward you for hitting them. That's a very strong one. Suppressive fire while aerosol is active, so while she's flying. Skylar's basic attack range is increased by 12%. That is very impactful. As far as chasing for kills, this really gives you that option because you're going to move a little bit faster and have a little bit more range. For sure, that helps you chase down kills super easy. I feel like that's quite strong. And then Atomized Artillery, a very unique one on her ult. Atomizer now fires 3 blasts in succession, each dealing 42% of the original damage, so totaling out to deal significantly more than just her base ult, and firing 3 shots gives you more time to react to them, but the increased damage is going to be quite strong, especially if you're interested in building something like Overseer, if you're interested in taking the Minor Aug for extra ult damage, or even Vank to execute people with this. That makes her ult sound quite strong. I don't see Skylar leaving her number 1 carry slot with this level of decent augments on her for sure. But we'll see. I think all of them are pretty strong. Suppressive Fire going to be the most consistently valuable one, but the other two pretty decent too. Sparrow, she's got some fun ones here. Endless Hunt, takedowns reset Sparrow's basic ability cooldowns straight up. If you get a killer assist, all your abilities are back. That's quite strong for Sparrow when one of her abilities is that auto attack stem, which gives her significantly more damage output. Veiled Stalker, one of the ones that they showed off and one of the ones many people are very excited for. Upon activating Heightened Senses, which is her auto attack stem, Sparrow enters stealth, becomes invisible to enemies, and gains 35% movement speed for 1.5 seconds. Quite strong. On a hero with no movement abilities, this could be a definite game changer. It's only 1.5 seconds, but could be a very solid game changer to reposition, because you get to do that repositioning while stealth. So we'll take that for sure on Sparrow. And then one that I'm personally looking forward to seeing in game, Inner Fury, an augment to her ultimate. Inner Fire now releases a fan of 5 arrows instead of 3. Additionally, it has 8% increased range and fires 2 additional volleys. That's pretty absurd. That's going to make her ult a real threat in team fights. A 5-wide arrow volley with 2 free volleys attached to it and extra range. That's going to be a fun one to see, man. That's going to be a very spooky sight to see a Sparrow ulting. Next up, Steel. As far as which of these is the best, I mean, Veiled Stalker for sure is the best most of the time in your 2v2s in lane. And then Endless Hunt's the best for multi-kills, and Inner Fury is the best for massive teamfight ult value. So it's something for everyone here, depending on how you want to play Sparrow for sure. Steel, quite a bulky boy. Bulldozer, while using Bull Rush, become unstoppable and gain 50% damage reduction. That's quite nice. It means you can't get cancelled out of your shield charge rush knockback. And 50% damage reduction if you do end up taking some hits during it or have to charge through an ability, like through a Gadget ult. You take half damage. That's quite nice. That's quite nice. Colossal Crash on his ultimate. Shield Slam has 35% longer range, 10% larger radius, and now knocks enemies back away from the impact. We saw some clips of this in the reveal. Looked very cool. It's a second knockback on top of his Shield Rush knockback, which means you could jump behind them with this, knock the enemy duo lane towards your carry, and then still charge into them and knock them even further away from their tower. 30% longer range and 10% larger radius is quite nice too. Makes Steel ult like insanely strong. And then Adaptive Force Shield now has 2 charges, but is 70% less wide. I don't see this being too good. Being that much smaller really hurts his shield wall. And when you're comparing it to wanting to take one of these other 2 options, I don't think it really pans out too well. Could be interesting. 2 charges is cool and all, but I feel like both of these definitely outshine that. And mostly the old one. The old one just, it seems crazy. Terra, up next here. Iron Resolve, Wild Rush, her dash, now grants 15, 25, 35, 45, 65% damage reduction while in its channeling. It's quite a bit of damage reduction while channeling, to be fair. I don't know if it's really like a game changer, but that's nice damage reduction while you're channeling if you're using it to escape or if you're taking damage while you're trying to continue to charge in. Definitely nice. And keep in mind, after you make impact, you're going to get the shield, so this is a great double damage reduction type ability. Axe Retrieval, this is a fun one. Highland Hurl can now be picked up from the ground, reducing its cooldown by 40%. They changed this axe throw to a projectile now instead of a hitbox in front of you, which is cool. So you're going to be able to lob it, and if you are someone who wants to spam lobbing it, it pierces heroes now, so you can hit multiple people with it. So if you want to try to spam lob it, you can pick it back up off the ground for 40% reduction in cooldowns, which is nice. And then Howitzer Will, we've got on her ultimate, while Unstoppable Force is active, Terra gains a stack of Howitzer every 0.7 seconds. This is not great. This is just allows her to hit her empowered abilities more frequently, but it's 0.7 seconds. You should be autoing more than that or swinging abilities consistently enough to where that's not too big of a deal. Keep in mind, when you hit your ult, you get 5 stacks instantly to empower your next ability, so I don't see that one as being too strong. I think the damage reduction may be her best one here, but none of these are like super crazy exciting, you know, or like game changing by any means. The Fae's got some cool ones here that we need to talk about. First off, Nature's Infusion, a fun one for sure. Damaging heroes with Harvest Nettles grants 8 ability haste for 5 seconds, stacking infinitely. Of course, you're probably... This requires you, if you want to continue stacking it past 8 ability haste, to hit the nettles at least once every 5 seconds. Which is very feasible on Fae, but worst case scenario with this, hitting someone with nettles just gives you 8 haste for the next 5 seconds, whether you miss the second nettles or not, and then, let's say you miss the second one, and the third or fourth nettles, you finally hit it again, now you've got 8 ability haste for the next 5 seconds. So, just consistently nice bonus ability haste. That'll affect your ultimate, it'll affect all of your abilities, so a decent one for sure. Wild Growth, absurd. Brambles patch has 40% more range. I already thought that Brambles was a very long range, very wide now since the 1.4 patch. Ability, 40% more range is massive. That's huge range. A nice little highway for your team to travel down super fast in team fights, which is cool. We'll see how that feels. See how that looks in game too, because that's massive. And then Verdant Embrace, this is a cool one for support Fae potentially. Untamed Growth also heals Fae and her allies for 30 plus 30% magical power over its duration. The healing occurs again on explosion, so that's basically double scaling. This is quite a lot of healing. If you've got a lot of magical power, this is effectively an ability that has over 70% magical power scaling on healing if you set in it for its full duration and explosion. So a support Fae, I'm going to definitely be giving a try. Support Fae, you may even just want a larger Brambles patch, but 3 solid augments for Fae, definitely looking forward to playing her on the new patch. Twin Blast is up next here. Vortex Grenade has 1 additional max charge, very fun there. And Rocket Dash also restores 1 charge on use. So you're going to be spamming grenades. You can just dash to get an extra free grenade. You can hold 1 extra grenade. Very fun one here. Grenader is a great name for it because that's a grenade spamming in the augment for sure. Amplified Burst Vaporize has 15% more range. Not like game changing or like fundamentally super strong, but keep in mind Vaporize rather than Kira's Mercy does pierce minions, so it is his primary clear on minion waves. 15% extra range is nice. No extra damage associated with it though, so hard to say how crazy this really is. And then lastly, Hotshot. Ventilate now pushes back enemies, so when you're ulting, it's going to be pushing them back. Its force increases the closer they are to you. based on 0 to 1,000 units distance. So yeah, you can use his ult as a pushback, so when melee heroes are trying to come at you, you can just ult them off of you. Pretty fun, very fundamentally ult changing there. Maybe the most attractive one out of these Twin Blast augments, although having grenade spams is quite nice. I think Hotshot's going to be a nice tech option for Twin. His ult already does really good damage and has good range too, so why not make it even better? Wraith, Mystic Marksman, Knock Knock now deals magical damage instead. A fun one. I don't know if it's worth an augment slot to make a change like this, but because who cares if it does physical versus magical, but it does make it so you could build like Caustica and get good value out of that. So we'll see if this really is like something people are going for. Most likely they'll want one of these other ones here. Illusionist, surprise surprise, now grants its effects to nearby allied heroes in 950 units area around Wraith, but its cooldown is 40% higher. So yeah, a teammate move speed and invisibility ability coming out of Wraith. Support Wraith could definitely get some crazy plays out of this in duo, but it's going to be fun to see some team fights where Wraith takes multiple friendlies invisible and they reposition really quickly with that move speed and that big jump. And then finally, Sniper's Bounty, probably the best one overall for helping him scale up. Killing blows from Knock Knock grant 5 extra gold, increased to 30 gold for heroes. So when you're farming lane, if you're focusing on hitting that Knock Knock on the minions, you're going to get significantly faster gold gains as Wraith. So probably the best one overall to keep Wraith scaled up and get him scaled up quicker. Magical damage isn't that exciting, and then very niche usage for the allies turning invisible ability. So I think the extra gold gain will kind of be the way to go on him. Next up, Wukong. Got some kind of odd ones. High impacts 0 to 60% height damage is no longer capped at 1500 units. Now able to deal 60 to 100 damage when slamming from 1500 to 10,000 units. So the higher up you go with his little staff slam down, the more damage it does, up to a point. Now with this, it's removing that cap, and you're going to be able to basically deal double damage with it if you get way up in the air. Most likely you're never going to be able to impact from that high, so not a super impactful augment, I don't think, but kind of a funny one overall. Masterful Mimicry. On his ultimate, Wukong's max clone limit is increased by 1, and he now generates a stack of hair every 4 seconds. This is pretty crazy because it means you're going to be able to have a ton of clones, up to 6, I guess it is, because the current cap is 5, and getting a hair every 4 seconds, regardless of what you're doing, means you're pretty much always going to be running around with max clone stacks out. A fun one right there for sure. Maybe I don't know if that's too strong or not, really, because the clones did just get nerfed, but a fun one for sure. And then Prosperous Path, while in body stance, kills grant 4 extra gold, while in spirit stance, kills restore 2% missing health. This is interesting because you could set in body stance when you farm jungle and gain extra gold, or you could set in spirit stance and sustain health. So either way, I think this is pretty fun and high skill cap here, so I don't mind that at all. I think of the strongest of these, you're probably looking at Magical Mimicry. Having an extra clone is probably better than trying to get this force this scaling off. And then the height, I don't think this one's really that impactful. Yin up next here. We've got Deflecting a Projectile grants 20% decaying movement speed over 2 seconds and a 44 plus 18% per hero level shield. This is quite nice, rewards you for being good with that deflect and knocking projectiles back, so definitely appreciate that, rewarding skilled gameplay. I don't know if that's going to be the strongest of these 3, but definitely one to consider. Serpent's Blessing, Lash Kick's cooldown is reduced by 50% when Yin vaults off of terrain, so if you're just using her whip to pull around and move around in the terrain, you get that cooldown back much faster, 50% faster, which is quite nice. Good tech and usability option there. And then Storm of Salvation, affecting your secondary wind burns. This is the buff. lasts for 2 seconds longer, and grants Yin plus 1% missing health healing on hit while it's active. The healing is 20% as effective against non-heroes. So extra healing on hit and 2% longer on her stem is quite strong because it already lasts long enough and has a short enough cooldown to keep it up pretty frequently. So this one probably is the strongest of these three in the majority of cases. Just depending on the comp. If you're against a comp where you know you need to be deflecting projectiles consistently, this one could help you more. But just making your stem stronger feels like the best option, probably, right? Yuri, the new hero. This one, Hollowed Reverberation. Hollowed Strikes grants or gain 150 additional range and bounce 2 more times. This is on her auto attacks that get stemmed up to ranged auto attacks. Extra bounces and extra range on her auto attack stem. Interesting. I mean, we haven't got to see her yet, so it's hard to say how good any of these are going to be, but more range is always good, right? Soulweaver, affecting her ult. Soulstorm grants 20% plus 5 per unique hero hit damage reduction while active. Wow. And its cooldown is 10% lower. That seems really strong. That seems really strong. Because even if you only hit one hero, right, that's 25% damage reduction. And a shorter cooldown. That seems really strong, right? That seems really strong. I like that. That's a huge percent damage mitigation. And then Ephemeral Surge on her secondary effect, destroying torn spirits. So these are the spirits that pop out or whatever when you are using other abilities and hitting enemies. Grant 25% decaying movement speed over 3 seconds. Decent. That's not a lot of movement speed, but it is over 3 seconds. So just from reading these, having not played Yuri or seen much Yuri gameplay, it seems like this amount of damage reduction and a shorter cooldown on top of it is a lot. So I would say this one's probably the strongest, but we'll have to see. Extra range and extra bounces on her Hollowed Strikes could be more valuable. We'll just have to see. Next up, looking at Zarus. He's got some fun ones. This Ascended one we talked about in the previous video on top 5 augments you can't ignore. Zarus permanently gains plus 10 max health and plus 1 physical power every minute. We talked about this one as potentially being a really strong one depending on what these numbers are. 10 max health and 1 physical power is a little bit more balanced than the like 12 and 1.5 I think that it was in the test server. Every minute, that means if this is a 20-minute game, you're getting 200 max health and 20 physical power. If it's a 30-minute game, you're getting 300 max health and 30 physical power. That's a good balance. If the game goes long enough, this is equivalent to an extra full item. But most situations, it will not quite reach that point, most likely. But it's very solid. I mean, solid extra free scaling. Build this with Overlord and Aegis of Aguilar and get a lot of free bonus scaling out of it. Master of Spears. Spear of Nirn's cooldown is only 40% longer when thrown instead of 100. I'm not throwing the spear that much. This does incentivize you to throw it more. I don't think this is that insane. I think this is just kind of decent. Maybe if you do like to, if you want to have an extra ranged option on Zarus, this could be your ticket. But I don't see it being as strong as the free health and power gains, probably. And then Flow State, evades cooldown is 15% lower, and its cooldown resets on takedowns. That one is actually quite good. Shorter cooldown in general, and then also when you get a takedown, letting it reset, that could definitely help you if you're chasing multiple kills, or if you're trying to grab a kill and then escape. It could definitely get you that cooldown back up. So I like that. I would definitely be tempted to use that. I probably will be trying out this Ascended one first, though, because I feel like with Overlord and Aegis of Aguilar, that's just going to be insane late game scaling and incentivizes you to push the games longer. So I like that on Zarus for sure. And then finally, Zinx. Got some decent ones. I think this Heal Matrix one is my favorite of the three. It is her Infuse. Her heal now has 2 charges, but heals 10% less. That is a great balance. Only 10% less healing for 2 charges. You could double heal a hero real quick and definitely heal them more than before. Or you could split that healing across 2 allies. So definitely like Heal Matrix a lot here. Terminal Treatment Infuses on-hit damage increases by 0 to 60% based on target's missing health. So this is the tick damage that she has on her auto attacks. Decent. I don't know. This doesn't seem like... Damage on Zinx is kind of just a bonus to what the other stuff she does, which is more important. So I don't really see this being that valuable. Even if it's at 60% boosted, it's not that big of a damage number, I don't think. And then Disc of Demise, Ricochet, this is on the stun disc. Ricochet bounces 25% further, and each hit reduces its current cooldown by 5%, increased to 10% for heroes. This may be beneficial. It is going to make it come up off of cooldown faster. But 25% further, it already has pretty fair stun ricochet duration or distance on the bounces, so I don't think that's really that impactful. I think of these three, I would much rather have this 2 charges on my heals and heal for 10% less than either of the other two, but maybe the ricochet 25% further bounces will be more key in some big team fights where there's a little bit more spread out. It could definitely help for sure. But that's going to do it as far as all the augments. Geez, that was a lot. I know this was a long one. Timestamps below to each hero. Look forward to this augment system coming June 10th. Keep in mind you got to pick one from Pool 1 and one from Pool 2 on the minor augments as well. But look forward to this patch. Coming Tuesday, June 10th, we'll be live testing all this out. Planning to do our 500 subscriber celebration stream on that day, June 10th, on Tuesday. It'll probably go from like 1 p.m. to 1 a.m.-ish and do a really long stream for you guys, testing out these augments and talking to you guys about the meta. Let me know in the comments your favorite augments for this list. Which ones do you think are too strong? Which ones do you think are too weak? And just look forward to testing these out, man. It's going to be a fun one. We'll catch you out on the streams. Thanks for all the support on the channel recently, and thanks for stopping by and checking this one out too. We'll catch you on the next one. Keep enjoying Pred, folks. Just keep enjoying Pred. It should be easy once we get all this fun new goodies to play with. We're going to keep enjoying Pred for sure. So we'll see y'all there. Thanks for stopping by.